I asked Dr. Kim Solez, or as I call him, Dr. Kim Probable, if anybody watches Kim Possible or anything like that. And he would like to give a quick speech about his dog, which maybe some of you have met, as well as a story to share with you.
So in November 2005, I visited Leonard Cohen in his Montreal home over a 3-day weekend. I was very anxious about this because I could imagine Leonard being extremely bored with my presence and, the conversation faltering early and the whole thing just being very tense. But it was entirely the opposite of that. We just talked without stopping, and he had many more questions for me about what it's like being a physician and creating standards in medicine and stuff than I had for him. We finally left only because we had a plane to catch. But probably the most controversial part of the visit was the presence of the robotic dog, because when I left Edmonton, a number of people told me that taking the robotic dog to see Leonard Cohen was an extremely ill-advised idea. Perhaps the stupidest thing I'd ever done in my entire life. And so I was somewhat anxious about that also, not only Leonard being bored with us, which didn't seem to happen, but also Leonard not being that keen on the robotic dog. So I explained this to him, and that's when I learned something about his sense of humor, because we were enjoying each other's company so much. But he said, "No, Kim, I think the visit would have been even worse without the dog." I said, "Leonard, that's terrible. When I tell people back home that you said even worse, they're going to think the whole weekend was a failure." But he said, "Yeah, I know." But you might say, well, what issues could there possibly be about a robotic dog that you could discuss with such a famous person? Well, so the dog took great interest in Leonard. The dog can map portions of houses and then navigate that. So he mapped Leonard's kitchen, and he can have 3 different owners and recognize 3 different voices. So he did the owner registration with Leonard too. So, and Leonard and I discussed whether it's better for a robotic dog to only have 1 owner or 3 owners is fine, and he thought maybe 1 owner is actually better. But the main thing we talked about was the fact that the robotic dog has no sense of right and wrong, and no real moral sense at all. But I said, well, he's not big enough to harm anything, so maybe it doesn't matter. Leonard said, no, I think he'll find a way to get big. So then skip ahead 6 years. So Leonard is a Sony artist. I got the dog because the CEO of Sony had said in 2002 that this dog is emblematic of what the whole Sony company is doing. I thought, boy, if I get the dog, Sony will like me, and we can sell bootlegs and do all sorts of things that they wouldn't ordinarily like, but because I purchased this dog, they'll think I'm totally cool. But that's not what happened, of course. Sony decided to not only stop producing the dog, but to get rid of the whole entertainment robot division. So that portion of Sony was completely axed. Not only this dog, but everything else related to it, including the humanoid one. But then, there. Are you happier now? Yes. Don't drop me. Okay. Yeah. But yes, I'm helping you. So in 2011, Leonard was famous for never selling out, right? Never like being a part of somebody's ad. But he was a Sony artist. So in 2011, Leonard was kind of interested in high-tech things, and Sony was engaging in a new initiative called Sony 3D. So they, I think, told Leonard, you know, it's time for you to do something in one of our ads. So the one poem, the one performance that none of you would know is the poem in this 1-minute promo for Sony 3D that is Leonard Cohen doing this poem. And the thing you will recognize, though, is it's just kind of an abstracted portion of 1,000 Kisses Deep. So he didn't really write a new poem for Sony's ad. He just sort of made up one from an existing poem. But in a sense, then, he was right, you see. This whole artificial intelligence, high-tech thing will find a way to get big. It got big enough that in 2011, he had to help create a Sony ad, but it's not too bad. And it's hidden enough that probably most of you have never seen it and maybe never will. So that's the story of Leonard and the Sony Aibo Robotic Dog. Thank you very much.
I don't know if anyone beyond this first row could see it, but that dog was like sitting, and then it would like bark at us and like turn its head and then like lifted its leg to like take a little robot pee. I want one.